and the negative zone is like poor man's understanding of antimatter. And I'm just wondering, you know,
Jack got stuff out of everywhere. Really, he was a vociferous reader. He would go to newsstands sometimes and pick up the damnedest things to look at and read. He watched a lot of documentaries on TV. Things out of everywhere. One of the secrets, now this is just putting a toe in a very big ocean, is that a lot of Jack's brilliance came from taking two things, or two or more things, that nobody else would ever connect, and connecting them. I'll give you an example of this. Now we're in the realm of theory here, and I didn't discuss this with Jack, but it's something looking at his work. They do the first issue of Thor. Now, you know, when we're doing a story about a god on Earth, we have to have a menace for him to fight. You could have anything. Thor could have fought villains, monsters, he could have fought the gang, the mafia, he could have fought anybody. And what did Jack have him fight? These stone men that looked like the stone men on Easter Island. And Jack was fascinated by the stone men on Easter Island. He'd done 2 or 3 stories before for different publishers about those guys. What of all things made Jack think of using the stone men and Thor? And I believe Jack was the one who thought of that. Okay? This is going to sound bizarre to you. Hear me out. There was a very popular book that Jack read called Kon-Tiki. It was about, among other things, the stone men of Easter Island. Who wrote Kon-Tiki?
or Iredale.
Or Iredale. I think that Jack in his brain and Kirby was melded together. And when somebody said Thor, that made Jack think of Thor Iredale, and he thought of the stone man. Okay, now, nobody can ever prove me right or wrong on this. But I think there's a lot of, I think Jack put a lot of things together in his brain. And I don't know if he was even conscious of it. But, you know, he would take some ideas. It was just so amazing. About, just before Jack stopped drawing comics, this is a story I haven't told very often. And forgive me if I'm not letting these guys talk enough. You'll be interested in this. Ross said to me, why don't you create a comic book? Jack had a lot of kids coming to him with ideas for things. Oh, Mr. Kirby, here, if you draw this up, we'll be able to sell it as a movie. So Jack did a whole presentation drawing these kids, and they take the drawings and leave, and you never see them again. God knows where they're so strong and so wound up. And you know, a lot of people wanted him to collaborate on stuff. And Jack was getting a little tired, and he was having some health problems. He had a problem with his eye, having a problem with drawing. And Ron says, why don't you create a character together with Jack, and maybe you can go sell it off for a TV show or cartoon show, something like that. So I said, okay, let me think about it. And I didn't want to go to Jack and let him create the whole thing, because I didn't want to sponge off. So I came up with an idea. I came up with an idea. And then I thought at that point, who are we going to get to think of this? And Mike was not available. I called you, and I said, I've got a Kirby project coming up. And he said, oh, don't ask me. He said, no, don't ask me now. I just can't handle it right this moment. He was just, I think he just went on staff at Disney or whatever it was. I don't know the time on this. Anyway, so on a whim, I called Terry Austin. You all know Terry Austin by name here. And I said, Terry, if I came up with a new book that Jack Kirby was going to pencil, would you be interested in inking it? He said, yeah. Because Terry was kind of a hot inker at the time, having done X-Men. And I thought, okay. So I went out to Jack's, and I told him this idea I had for this new book. I had in the back of my mind, he said yes, I'd have Terry Austin ink it, and we'd sell it. We would basically put it up for bids to all the different publishers. They were publishing creator-owned comics. This time we would have controlled the copyright on it. And then I would have the right to go out and try to sell it for someone else. I told Jack this idea, and Jack started telling me so many variations on it. Yeah, that's great. They can do this, and he can have this. They can have a sidekick that does this. And I thought to myself for a minute, did I tell him this idea a month ago? He was working on these ideas. No, they came out of him that second. And they were, and I'm not saying they were all fabulous, but if you were creating stuff, you'd want somebody around there just throwing out good ideas, and you could maybe say, oh, how about that one? You know that in the Lee and Kirby collaboration, Jack must have pitched 5 times as many ideas as they use.
Well, you gave them
10
other
times.
artists,
What?
and then Stan used them for other artists.
Yeah,
Their
maybe,
plots.
maybe he did in a couple of cases. There's some stories about that we won't get into now. But, so Jeff had all these ideas. So I went home, and then the phone rang about 2 days later, and it was Archie Goodwin, who was running the Epic line for Marvel. And Archie was a good friend of mine. He said, I understand, Terry Austin, you've got a new Jack Kirby book. We want it. Whatever it is, we will buy it sight unseen. We will guarantee you that it will be the best content ever. I want to be the guy, Archie said, who gives Jack Kirby a good deal from Marvel. So I thought, well, we've got a great offer here. And then I started thinking, what if something goes wrong? What if Archie leaves the company? What if Archie can't deliver on the promises? Archie was a man of utter integrity, but who knows who above him would overrule him and such. And I started getting worried. I didn't want to be the guy who went to Jack and said, Jack, they just did this horrible thing to us, which I kind of had to do when Archie made me an offer to do a book on Hollywood superstars. A little later on, I did a book for them called Hollywood Superstars with Dan Spiegel. And they, the people who succeeded Archie didn't like the book. They didn't want to try to market it different ways. I mean, I would not, what actually happened on that book, I would not have wanted to have happen with the book I did with Jack. And at that point, Roz said to me, his health's getting worse, I don't know if he can do it. So I dropped it. I dropped the whole idea. But I had that experience of Jack taking an idea, and I'd seen him do this with other people's ideas, and I'd seen him do it with, I gave him one word and he jumped. But I never saw him take a fully developed idea that I gave him and turn it into something worth 10 times as much. And it was when I really, my amazement at Jack's skills grew and grew. In hindsight, it has grown more and more. And I don't know if I answered your question at all there. I ran a bit from it. But he was just able to think of things. And if you said shoehorn to Jack, that would trigger some idea. If you said, if you went to him and said, if you said your favorite movie was Some Like It Hot, he would suddenly kick you, oh, I gotta think about gangsters and guys who dress up as women. He would suddenly think a whole new take on it. It wouldn't be an imitation of Some Like It Hot. He would just take, you all know who Ernie Bushmiller is?
Oh, yeah.
Ernie Bushmiller used to have a gag. He would open the Sears catalog, which is a big, huge thing. People did mail order in the days before Amazon. He'd go, stepladder. He just, okay, I'm going to do a joke about I'm going to do a gag about a stepladder. And he'd sit there and he'd just force himself to go with a great idea about a stepladder. He wasn't stealing from the Sears catalog, but he was coming up. And Jack would do the same thing with any concept or word you gave him. It was a personal challenge now. And that comes back to the question about what did Jack like to do. If you said to Jack, well, I want you to do a Western about penguins, and Jack would seriously think, okay, what can I do? Personal challenge, I'll come up with a Western with penguins or something. He might think that wasn't the best idea that could be done, but if he were forced to do it, he would do it. So,
I think he did a lot of research for the Skymaster script as well. So like getting into the space race and the Sputnik era stuff, that might have kicked off an element of research.
We have about 10 more minutes for this panel. I just wanted to conclude to everybody. The dealer's room is closing in 10 minutes. If you want to get back in there, leave now. They won't let you back in after 6. So if you need to get back into the dealer's room tonight, run down right now and get in the door before 6 o'clock. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up. Give me a question for one of these other people. Yeah. Okay, give us your question.
This will be a very quick one. How much is the question for Mark? How much closer are we to the Jack Kirby biography?
I don't know. The question was how close are you to my Jack Kirby biography? It is huge. It is 85% done. I am waiting on a couple of people who talk to me. A couple of minor legal issues that have held it up. You all figured this out, that I didn't publish my Jack Kirby biography when there were still outstanding issues between the Kirby family and Marvel. I just would have complicated everybody's life there. I was very happy with how that dispute ended, and that was more important than my book. Anyway, so I don't know the answer. So, yes, sir.
Was he upset when DC would redo his faces?
Was he upset with DC
Out of
doing his
style, that
faces?
sort of-
Yes.
Did it hurt him? I mean, did it
Yes, it
hurt
hurt him. He thought it was financially stupid. He thought it was bad selling. He acted, because he was a team player, he had no play. He couldn't threaten to quit that. He couldn't go back to Marvel at that time. So he said, oh yeah, fine, do what you need to do. But he was, how would an artist not want that to happen? In Marvel, occasionally, they'd have John here to draw a face here and there. But it wasn't a case where they were doing, Jack had been kind of pressured to do Jimmy Olsen. And then he said, Jack, you can't draw Jimmy Olsen, but keep doing it. He said, saying, if they don't think I can draw a book of Superman, why they got me a book of Superman? Give it to somebody else. It's like a lot of times when Jack took over somebody else's book. When they asked me to take over Black Panther book in the mid-70s, other people had been doing a Black Panther comic, and Stanley called and said, we want a new take on it. And Stan made him repeat. Okay, now you want me to do a different version? Yes, do a different version of it. He says, guys, if you want to come in and give me that book, give it to somebody else. I'm not going to do somebody else's version of this character. I'm going to do my version of this character. And I said, that's what we want. He didn't want to have to measure up to somebody else's, match somebody. That's why he didn't want to take over an existing book. That's why he wouldn't want to do Batman. So, because all these people in DC had opinions on how Batman should be done. I'd say something about that, because I had Jack at a convention in '85, and Murphy Anderson. Murphy was apologizing to Jack for redoing the heads. Jack was very gracious about it, so, well, I know how things are in that office, and Murphy said, I would like to have made a whole story rather than just faces. And he said, I would have felt more comfortable with that, but I think Murphy must have apologized to him 4 or 5 times. Yeah, he did. He also said this in comment. He said, if they had let me, I would have made it look more like Kirby. Yeah. In other words, he wouldn't have redrawn the heads. If they said, if Murphy inked this book, he wouldn't have redrawn the heads. He would have just inked them, skewed them a little more that right direction. I have a belief that if Frank Giacoya had inked the Jimmy Olsen books, nobody would have ever said anything about what Jack had said. But they said it now became an issue. And again, it was Jack fighting this mentality. Remember, Jack went to work for a company where most of the editors had walked around for years before saying, boy, we're glad our books won't put those crappy Marvel books. Those Marvel books stink so much. I had a memorable encounter one time with a man named Saul Harris, who was the head of production at DC. This is around 1974. And I was hanging around the office. I think Saul even thought I worked there. It was like a junior intern or something like that. I was not on the payroll. I had nothing to lose by saying this to him. Because what are you going to do, fire me when I don't work there? So a bunch of younger employees are looking at the current Marvels, so they brought up a bundle of the current Marvels. And they're sitting there going, oh, boy, look at that terrible cover on this one. Oh, look at that Alpha Link job on that. They're putting them down. But they said, oh, boy, that book looks good. That book, and Sal Harrison says, no, all the Marvel books stink. They're all lousy. And he said, this is a quote, the best artist at Marvel is not as good as DC's worst artist. The best artist at Marvel is not as good as the worst artist here at DC. And that hung in the air for a second. And I said, and he goes on and he expanded on that a little bit. And I said, so you're saying that the art that Gil Kane is doing now for Marvel is nowhere near as good as the art that Gil Kane is doing now for DC. And none of us looking at that would have seen any qualitative difference. And Saul said, yeah, you're right. Gil knows he can't get away with handing that shit to us. And that was the company into which Jack Kirby went. And there were people there who were going, God, this looks like a marvel. And that was part of the underlying mentality of not letting the Jimmy Olsen comic be marvelized as much. We've got to pull it back to what we do so well. And the company was like that to a lot of people. I hand carried out a job, that visit with Mike and Steve Sherman to New York in 1970. I hand carried back a job for Alex Toth. I delivered it for him. And, you know, they set her up, going, oh, Toad did a great job. How do we fix this? How can we change that? How can we fix that? They called it putting the DC touch on it. And that was some of what Jack was fighting when he wanted to get Mike Royer. He didn't want somebody looking at the work trying to make it look more DC. Because whatever Mike did, it didn't look like a DC comic. It looked like a Jack Kirby comic. It did not look like conventional DC. We got time for like 2 more questions.
I gotta believe when Jack went to DC with the Fourth World, he thought that was gonna be his future, and he was gonna turn that into.
No, he thought that was going to be one thing he'd do. He thought it was going to be a lot more in DC.
Okay, well, my
He
question
thought
was,
Fourth World was a series he was going to start and then turn over to other people, and he would go do comics in other sizes. Jack wanted to do magazines, big formats. He wanted to do comics that looked like the thing he's showed us here.
my question was, when it ended, how hurt was he? Was he disappointed that it was over?
The Fourth World stuff. The day that Jack told Steve Sherman and myself that they were canceling, they said suspended the Jack with that man. New Gods and Forever People, my heart broke. He was so upset. He looked like a man who had just been punching him in the face over it. He was just crushed. He was genuinely worried that he'd be operating for the rest of his career from a position of failure. And he didn't think the books were failures. He thought DC didn't know how to sell them. He didn't know how to market them. He thought DC had kind of fragged his own troops. And then he said, oh, we're going to do a great new book. And Mike, he called you. What did he tell you? Tell him about the new book, the Commanding book. Remember the story? He called you and he said...
Old timers.
Okay, I'm not calling something Mike told me 12 times, all right? He called you and he said, Mike, we're going to cancel New Gods and Forever People. Don't worry, we're going to do another book that will be even better, and you're going to go all the way with me, right? Isn't that what he said? Yeah. And that was Jack. He was very depressed for a while, and he was never, I don't think he ever fully recovered. Roz used to say that was the moment she saw a certain spark of Jack go away forever. But he had plenty of other ones, and he poured himself into all these things. And you've never seen anybody give 120% like he did. When he was working for Marvel in the 70s again, was back there were some people who didn't like his work. And Jack could have coped very easily with people saying, I don't like his style, I don't care for what he does. He was fine with that. He didn't expect to appeal to them. But people would say, hey, you can see he doesn't care anymore, he isn't trying. That hurt him, because he was trying like hell with everything he ever did. I don't know if Jack was capable of filling a paycheck without trying.
Well, I was booed once at a panel at San Diego Comic-Con, and people like John Buscema and other people, before we went out on stage, agreed with me. But I said, what I've observed in the Marvel comic books, the last ones he was doing, was that he was being sabotaged from the inside. In my opinion, they were stacking the letter pages, and they all basically said, the drawing is great, but the writing sucks. And I said, because Marvel is run by a bunch of incestuous fanboys who want to ride on Jack's coattail and write the words for his stories. And so the best way to do it is to hurt sales by saying the writing sucks. Therefore, the writing would be taken away from him. They could fix Jack. And I was booed. But I still believe that he was attacked from the inside.
Yeah. One of them called me and said, listen, you know, Jack, can you convince him that I should be dialoguing his books? Anyway, let's get one more question. Let's get an up one. Yes.
Me?
Yeah, Andy.
Oh,
Andy.
Yeah, how about this? Rainy day, okay?
Rainy day.
And you're feeling kind of depressed. What are the 2 or 3 Kirby single issues that you reach for? I know you're sick of this question, but I think it's so important.
Well, I'll tell you, the question was, on a rainy day when I'm feeling depressed, and I'm never depressed, what are the Jack Kirby comics you reach for?
I'm asking all 4.
All right, I'll tell you my answer. I have in my shelf, I've got like any other writer, I've got a shelf in my office, bookcase of comics I work with, books I've written, things like that. I've got a shelf there of all the reprints of the New Gods and Forever People. And they're not there because I wrote the forwards for most of them. They're there because it makes me smile to see that those books that people said, those aren't commercial, They'll never sell, they're flops, they're failures, have now been reprinted in hardcover 11 times. And I like to see the spines of those books, and I think to myself, yeah, Jack won again.
Yeah.
He was way ahead of all those guys.
And DC, bless their hearts, I don't mind if they reprint Jack forever, because they are so good at giving reprint money. And every quarter, I'm gratified to get a check from them and realize that, as you said, Jack, who was not commercial, is now selling like crazy. And it's about time that everybody realized how important Jack was. And we live in a culture where we're surrounded with now, in the media, with all these movies that wouldn't have existed without Jack.
What I'd reach for first. What's your favorite? What's the Kirby book that makes you happiest to look at today? Kirby work, body of work.
I have to say two things. New Gods, first 6 issues of the Demon. Because I thought the first 6 issues, Jack lost something after the 6th issue. I always thought it was interference by Carmine. Because he was going on a certain tack. I thought some of your best inks, Mike. And all of a sudden we got movie adaptations, which were not in the early issues. I thought the early issues, Jack was planning something. He was clearly planning something, because in one of the Xeroxes, it says a fourth world, right, on a Demon cover.
Right.
So whether he really had the fourth world in mind for Demon or not, but he had something in mind, because he suddenly switched direction. Now, in the same kind of way he switched direction on Mr. Miracle is to get rid of the New Gods references. So I think Jack was planning something. I don't know what the something was, but you were good to go from.
But give us a positive.
The new positive?
The New Gods, the first one?
I would say so.
Okay. 'Cause we want a positive answer here, all right? Brad?
Positive, yeah, right. Probably, it was kind of manipulated somewhat, but I'd probably go to like Fantastic Four 73 with the crossover with Thor and Daredevil, just off the top of my head. It was kind of an early back issue for me, so kind of charming.
Mike, you got any other Kirby books that you'd like to look at today? For reasons other than the great inking?
Push come to shove, I have to say that probably Demon is my favorite book. Of course, every book I was working on at that time I loved it. But push come to shove, in retrospect, I think probably Demon resonates with me. And he originally intended it to be. I had a copy of the original Pencils and Inks, which is on the banner at my table, and it says, "A new fourth world shopper. Gone, gone, the form of man, enter Etrigan."
There you go. All right, folks, would you join me in thanking Mr. Mike Royer, Mr. Jim Arnold? Join me in thanking the guy who organized the programming for this convention, Andy Mansell, back there. Anyway, thank you very much. Let's all meet back here. All right.